So, welcome everybody to this first recording of the podcast. I'm sitting here with my good friend Jim.
Hello everybody.
And we've got some questions that we're gonna talk about and discuss and see where that brings us.
Yeah, maybe we can even answer a few of them.
Yeah, let's see. So, first of all, we thought to talk a little bit about discomfort. Idea that we know from Nietzsche, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And this actually, this works that way. Like, do we grow through discomfort? And if so, should we live our lives in a way that includes more discomfort?
I would think if you just read it like this, then it's kind of obvious that, yeah, you should. But what are the reasons that we don't do it? If it makes us better, then of course we should do it.
Well, obviously it's discomfortable, so...
Okay. So it's trading discomfort now for less discomfort in the future.
Yeah, I think that's the way we should look at it. Well, for sure I know situations in which too much discomfort has a very negative effect on me.
Yeah.
A family member dies and I can only think about that and I'm feeling very sad all the time, then that for sure doesn't help me to be stronger in my day-to-day life.
I would think maybe after 5 years it would make you stronger, but it's not something you want to do like every week. You also run out of family members. So.
Yeah, pretty quickly. Yeah. I'm not sure. I think that definitely there are a lot of situations in which you can have such a thing as too much discomfort. So I think there's this golden ratio of discomfort that might help you.
Yeah, if you're just struggling for 10 years, then at some point it starts to make you weaker, I would say.
So what kind of situation could we organize for ourselves that would be within these bounds?
I would say just the most obvious one is a good workout, where you just have to push yourself.
Yeah.
You really have to push yourself a little bit to get anything out of it. Going to university, I guess. It's a struggle, if you ask me.
Yeah, it's for sure not always comfortable. Or going to work, for that matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are situations like this where we tolerate discomfort.
But then it's not really about making us more resilient to future suffering.
Yeah, why is it not?
I guess earning a lot of money makes you more resilient to suffering.
Yeah, but also like the gym session. If you,
Yeah.
If you do a lot of workouts, you know you're tired afterwards and you might not like the process. You do know that in the long term you're going to get stronger. It's just the physical side of getting more resilient, I guess.
And maybe we can spin it into just doing uncomfortable things to get something beneficial in the future.
What about staying up for a night? Like just skipping sleep for a whole night?
Oh, I hate that.
Just for the sake of skipping a night, not because there's anything planned.
I used to sleep very, very bad and it was kind of okay. But now I notice so much in the days after that I'm so much less productive and so much less happy and also much less motivated to do anything.
Yeah.
That I'm really trying to stay on a strict sleeping schedule. So in this case, I would think it doesn't bring you anything unless you absolutely need to get something done.
Yeah, I guess sleep in specific. If you skip a few nights, then that doesn't mean you get better in skipping sleep in the future.
Yeah, I know for sure there's people who just always sleep 6 hours and they just perform fine.
Yeah.
I also think your sleep gets more efficient if you're very sleep deprived. So you can basically, in 6 hours, you can probably get, 70, maybe 80% of the sleep you need. So you can probably be pretty productive with that.
Yeah.
Because you don't really use all your energy in a day, probably. I would think.
Well, here as well, I know the cases where I sleep 12 hours and I'm not worth anything after that.
Yeah, if you sleep
too much sleep is definitely just as bad as too little sleep.
Absolutely, yeah. I get super groggy as well.
Yeah, really?
Too much, yeah.
With too much sleep? Well,
I even get the bags under my eyes again.
That's really wow. Well, the reason I got very interested in this specific question is that I read this book, Brave New World, which it's written just before the Second World War, where there was an idea of the utopian future where well-being was the biggest good, the biggest value. And actually the book is describing a horrible world in which none of us want to live, but it's completely based on everybody always being content.
Right.
But in order to get there, you are asked to take drugs whenever you feel uncomfortable, and babies are grown in a laboratory because you don't have a family that way, and strong feelings about your family might make you feel uncomfortable. So strong emotions are being avoided. And when I'm reading this book, it's definitely a world where well-being is optimized, and it's still something I would absolutely not want to live. And it feels like I'm hearing about very weak people, like people that have to take drugs when they feel bad.
Well, like you could also, like, maybe if you suffer a little bit more, then later on you can be like much more happy. So you have like one sadness now, but maybe you get like 2 happiness in the future.
Yeah.
So not only is it like a net win, but also your peak happiness is higher. So that could also be something to aim for.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think another thing that's very important is you're not used to any discomfort. And when anything happens that's not comfortable, you're not able to cope with it. I think it's worth a lot to just be able to, when somebody is calling you names and you know that this person, I don't know, just is in a divorce or something, to be able to just ignore what this person says.
I mean, I guess you can say something about it, but like before you sort of start to get annoyed by it.
Yeah, exactly. Like being able to not be annoyed by the situation.
Yeah.
I guess is something that you cannot do by default. You have to somehow practice it.
Yeah. And after 2 weeks, you can sort of say like, okay, now I'm starting to get pissed.
Yeah.
And then it's okay to sort of get annoyed by it. So, should we design our lives to include more discomfort?
Maybe the answer would rather be to not avoid discomfort. Yeah, maybe this brings us to the next topic. What would you like to open, Jim?
So the next thing is something I've been thinking about a lot, but I don't really know where to go with it. It's very related. I don't even know how to sort of state it as a question, but it's like, so you have this human who sort of is always trying to optimize their happiness, short term or long term, and that people make different considerations in that regard. This human is feeling good because there's like some chemicals in their brain. So basically, they're trying to do things outside their body to make their head sort of release some chemicals, and then they feel good. And that in itself is already quite weird, because why does the human want to feel good?
Yeah.
And what's the added value?
Yeah. Why wouldn't there just be some way of releasing the chemicals without doing anything if you want to feel good anyway?
Yeah, and still then, like, what is it? Why do you want to feel good?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So when you first mentioned this to me, I was thinking about the artificial intelligence problem, where we've been able to design some really amazing algorithms. Also, when we think about machine learning, neural networks, we can do all kind of image recognition and stuff that starts to really look like what we as humans can do. But then still, if in this way we are able to finally make the perfect AI, it's just going to sit on the chair and do nothing. Like, you cannot ask the AI, what do you want to think about, or what do you want to do? Because there's no wanting in this rationale.
Yeah, you always need like your loss function or your objective function, basically.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of smart people trying to figure this problem out, because this whole idea of an AI can never be developed without solving this part.
Well, it depends what you mean by AI, I guess. If AI is a tool for us to use, then it doesn't really matter. If you want to create real, like, artificial life, basically, then I guess you need...
What does intelligence mean to you?
I guess, to me, it would mean being able to use your environment to change the situation that you're in into a situation that's more desirable in some way. Yeah, so now you talk about desirable. Yes.
That implies that you want the situation to be in some way. I guess the one thing, like, that's still the same problem where you need emotions and feelings. I think that in order to produce something that we would actually call intelligent, like right now, and I can call an algorithm that recognizes puppy pictures out of a big bunch of pictures.
Yeah.
I can call that inventive. I can call it impressive. I won't call it intelligent. Yeah. So I feel this is something we really need to crack. This ambition to have an artificial intelligence I think comes forward from the idea that we can make an artificial intelligence responsible for, let's say, the traffic network of a city. But then I don't just want to regulate it to regulate stuff, but I want it to think about what would I like the situation to be. And maybe there's a bunch of car roads right now, but I want to introduce a subway where, like the thinking outside of the box. I think there's some,
right.
You need some kind of intelligence or wanting in the mix to get there.
I mean, in this specific example, you could just think, I want to optimize for like either accidents or travel time, uptime, availability of the system.
Yeah. Yeah, so you've got some kind of loss function still.
Yeah. I think like almost any practical example you can come up with, you can say like, oh, you could do it in terms of this or that.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the human always has to come up with that loss function, so it's never like real autonomous.
Yeah, so our loss function is the thing we want. That's what we optimize for. So if I want to feel happy, which is, I think, basically the struggle of our lives, then we're trying to figure out how to optimize that. And if we would just feel happy all the time, that wouldn't make a lot of sense evolutionary, because we wouldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So
evolutionary, you could say like humans are just evolved in this way that they feel good if they do certain things, and through evolution, those things that make us feel good also increase our chance of survival.
Yeah.
So by doing things that are good for survival, we feel good, which makes us do those things.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's one way of looking at it.
Yeah. If I can go into a little bit of a sideway with this.
Yeah.
I recently came across this very interesting research where they showed that actually when we satisfy the conditions that we think that we should satisfy to be happy, then our bodies somehow recalibrates. So we feel happy for a little bit, and it recalibrates to feeling neutral, and then we need to do a bit more to feel happy again. Yeah. So in this research, they took a questionnaire among many different ethnic groups, many different countries, many different levels of prosperity and income. And what they found is that when they asked people to enter their happiness level on just a scale from 1 to 10 every hour for a couple of days, then this was on average the same in every single country. So the baseline happiness that we experience is the same everywhere, despite of the conditions we're in. And only when people migrate to a different country with a higher income,
or get a better job,
then their happiness increases, but it also drops down again to more neutral levels after a few years.
Right.
Yeah. And the same thing goes for getting married, getting children, losing a spouse. They all affect our happiness level in the year after these events, but after that it's back to neutral again.
Right. So also it means that we basically always have to keep changing if we want to feel happy all the time. Yeah,
like we feel neutral all the time and we want to feel happy.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps us on the move. And evolutionary, it doesn't make any sense for us to have the option to be completely content all the time.
Yeah.
Because that would mean we would just sit around and do nothing. And that's not the way to survive your next big event in life.
Yeah, or is it? Like, unless you just, like, you really have everything down. You just eat your nuclear bunker, you have all the food you ever need.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess evolution couldn't really prepare us for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because even as like a prehistoric, like Homo sapiens, maybe just like, I guess food wasn't that, you couldn't keep your food that long. Maybe you even, like, you have salt and you have like a lot of meat in salt, so you can keep it for very long.
Yeah.
You don't really need to do much.
Yeah. Yeah, but still we always had this desire for more and more and more, even if you look at ancient civilizations where people had a country where everybody was perfectly fine. And then people decide, no, actually we need to start conquering the countries around us because we need more and we want, like, people are not content with being stagnant. They want to grow. And in our current economy we have the same thing in a more moderate scale. But
well,
we need to always grow.
Depends what you mean by moderate, I guess.
I guess the standard is just a few % growth a year and everybody's happy.
Yeah.
The question is how sustainable that is.
Yeah, I mean, and also the number of people keeps increasing. Even if you keep the standard of living the same, then like sort of total load is gonna increase.
So to get back to your question about why it is that we talked about why it would be that we want things evolutionary.
Yeah.
And that there's this happiness thing that we want to optimize. I'd like to just try to project this onto our AI, what that would mean for an AI. Like, could we design an AI that tries to optimize something that's not directly in this rational system? Maybe we could have some.
Well, I mean, you could say that basically humans also have an optimizing function, or objective function, which is to basically just make the chance of survival as high as possible.
Yeah.
For the human race, like what we basically the things we said about, you always need to keep moving and changing. It's all about increasing your chance of survival. So I guess you could do the same for an AI. You could say like that all our emotions are a result of that.
Yeah. So maybe it's a set of things that we try to optimize. Like we try to not be hungry, to not be sleepy.
So the way I'm posing it now is that we basically try to optimize for our chance of survival, and because of that, and through evolutions, it sort of evolved into if you're hungry, you get a strong desire to eat.
Yeah.
Because that will increase your chance.
Yeah, and then that overrides the other. Maybe we are a little bit sleepy but very hungry, so we're just gonna try to eat.
Right. Yeah. In that sense, in that view, you can see the whole emotional system as just a tool to sort of draw your attention to certain things. Yeah.
So if we would put this into our AI, then if we would say that the traffic AI that we talked about before, we would give him a desire to minimize traveling time, but also to let's say maximize the amount of people that are on the road, or minimize it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Have a bunch of different functions of these, and he's just going to focus on the one that's most in the worst state at any point.
Yeah.
Would we then start to see a computer that is closer to having an emotional response to situations?
Emotions are just like a system of ours. And like if you have like a very complex neural network or something, there's also like so many interactions happening there that it wouldn't surprise me if you could sort of on a high level you could also draw you could maybe identify like 8 different or whatever, like some number of different groups that are acting together, and you could see that as maybe like emotion A or emotion B or whatever.
I think you're right with that. And what intrigues me about this, and why I keep coming back to the AI, is that in our body we have this computer in our head, the brain, but that's not our whole conscious system. We have a separate system of emotions and a separate system of nerves that are all connected, but are, and for some reason, it was, at least in our evolution, interesting to have separate systems that are interconnected like that, instead of having this internal feedback already completely inside of the brain.
This is new to me, actually.
I mean, the emotions are driven by your hormones, right? And the hormones are just in your blood, not just in the brain. So
it would that would suggest that other body parts or organs also need to have some influence or some reaction to the hormones. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense that it's like in the blood.
Yeah, exactly. And if we turn it around, if we would say like it's optimal to have these systems to some extent separated, like the rational brain and the emotions. Yeah. Should we also design a computer that has like a separate?
Yeah. That's a tricky thing with evolution. Like just because it is the way it is now doesn't mean it's optimal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Evolutionary algorithms are not that good as we have seen when we try to implement them.
They're good at finding local maxima.
Yeah. So that's a good point that you bring. Well, does this give some more thought to the idea that you posed?
Yes.
Right, let's go to the next one. A good friend of both of us, Jeroen Uleman, he actually asked us this question. He asked, is there a limit to soft skill when combined with sufficient mindfulness and self-awareness? In other words, could you ever avoid all conflict?
So one thing that springs to mind here is that he's basically assuming that people's views, like all people's views, are in some way compatible. Only then it makes sense to have infinite soft skills, so you can like talk out any misunderstandings you have.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's true. Maybe there are some people who are like just fundamentally incompatible in their views. So in that sense, the answer would be no. But I don't know.
Yeah. So you use the word misunderstanding. So it's implying that the conflict arises from misunderstanding and not from some intrinsic incompatibility between views, values.
Exactly. That's basically the assumption of this question, I guess.
Yeah, I think another interesting thing to make a distinction on before we continue talking about this is the level on which you view the conflict. Like we have conflicts between nations or between ethnic groups or between people. You and me can be angry with each other. Yeah. And that's, I think, a very different kind of conflict than when two nations are at war. What do you think? Do you think it's...
I would... that's a tricky one, because in a way it's the same. It's just people angry, but also people are sort of not angry literally at other people, but more at a country, which is like basically just a concept.
Mm-hmm. Could we view a country as a person?
We certainly like assign human properties to countries. Like I don't know, like people from Brazil are very kind, for example.
Yeah, so it's a kind country.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's discuss this on the person-to-person level then. Okay, so let's get back to the question: is there a limit to soft skill? So I think we can agree that this that there would be a limit to soft skill if conflicts are not always the result of misunderstanding. So I think we should think about situations in which this is the case. That in my own life, I for sure know situations in which I have a conflict with a family member or with my girlfriend when we have different needs. Maybe I'm hungry and my girlfriend is tired, so I want to eat and she wants to lie down in the bed.
Yeah, and wants you to not make any sound while you're cooking.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. Yeah, you might want to know that I'm living in a studio, so my kitchen and my bed are in the same room. So this could definitely result in a conflict. That's not just a result of communication; it's the result of like an intrinsic difference in needs.
Right. Still, maybe there would be a way if you can very clearly communicate your needs. That I hope this is the case, that your girlfriend would understand that you really need to eat.
Yeah.
And that therefore she would accept that you need to make some sound, and that you accept to cook a bit slower because you need to make less sound.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe the difference here, because there's already a conflict at that point, and just that we communicated it very clearly and it didn't escalate.
Yeah, that comes down to what is a conflict, I guess.
Yeah. So maybe we want to rephrase the question to: can we avoid all conflicts from escalating with enough soft skill?
Yeah, right. I would tend to say yes, unless there's of course like some limitation on how much we can communicate, just in terms of the time you need to communicate something. So you cannot always be aware of everybody's needs. I guess we can say that if you need to do it through talking, then you simply don't have enough bandwidth to understand everybody. So naturally you kind of have some disagreements or conflicts here and there. Do you agree with that?
What do you know about this? I think I could agree with that, but I think we can find a solution for that.
Okay.
I'm thinking about Elon Musk right now because he uses the same term sometimes, that we don't have enough bandwidth in the communication.
Yes.
And he started this company. Do you know what it's called?
Neuralink.
Neuralink, yeah.
Neuralink.
Neuralink. So it's basically a company that's designing this device that we could plug into our brain and we can use to stream ideas and concepts directly without the interference of language, or maybe still in language, but without the limitation of how fast we can formulate sounds with our mouth, which severely limits our communication as well. And communicate in a more direct and faster way. So let's assume this is possible, then, and I think to some extent it is, otherwise this company would have stopped working on it some time ago, I guess.
Well, let's just assume it's possible.
Okay, let's assume it's possible. Then this would solve the problem of not having enough bandwidth to communicate.
Yeah. I mean, sorry to interrupt, but I mean, still you could say like it's never going to be infinite bandwidth. So, but let's just assume it is.
Okay, that's a very, very big assumption.
Yeah. But I mean, that basically gives you like a sort of distributed consciousness, because everybody is I guess it's not a distributed consciousness, because you still sort of have to talk. You still have to exchange, and I would think when you're all sharing the same consciousness, you don't have to exchange information, because it's simply all there already. Yeah.
But so what if there wouldn't be a filter? Like, what if we would actually be able to get to the distributed consciousness? I guess I can be in conflict with myself as well. I don't need other people to be in conflict. Like, for example, when I have different needs that are comparable in intensity, or when I did something stupid, I can actually be angry with myself.
Yeah.
I think these are like this phrase, I'm angry with myself. I think a lot of people will recognize that they thought or said this at some point.
Yeah.
And I think it's fair to say that you have pretty much unlimited bandwidth in communication to yourself, at least insofar your capacity of your brain goes.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's an issue of not being able to communicate enough information, at least not to any reasonable level. So having a lot of soft skill wouldn't that mean that you are able to, in a compact manner, communicate in a way that de-escalates the situation?
So in what manner?
In a compact manner. So you are able to just say 2 or 3 phrases, and that's exactly what the other person needs to know, and it doesn't need to contain all the information about you or the other person. It's just the thing that resonates with the person that's listening to you at that moment, and that manages to de-escalate the situation.
Yeah.
Even though if it doesn't solve the conflict. So I can imagine like you have these situations where you agree to disagree.
Yeah.
And where the conflict still exists, but you're not angry with each other for it, because you understand that there is a conflict and that's fine.
Yeah. So basically soft skills can avoid escalation.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay, sure. Keep it coming.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh yeah, it's one of my questions. And it is, why is it that we don't do the things that we say we want to do? So in my own experience, I often have the intention to go more often to the gym, to prepare my work for tomorrow in some way, and I later find myself not doing this, even though I know, or at least I convinced myself that I want to do this. I think I want it, but I don't do it. So there's this separation between being able to move myself, to put myself into action, and the thing that I think rationally I want to do. So I see that I distract myself a lot, and I think in our economy there's a lot of offer for distraction, and a lot of people feel this need to be distracted by Netflix and Facebook and other services. And is there some way to get around that? And why do we do this? That's a question I would like to pose.
Yeah, I would say before we get into is there a way around it, or can we avoid it? I think we probably need to look into why we do it. Because I always tend to I was I used to be very bad at this. I used to always be extremely ambitious. I'm gonna do 8 courses and go to the gym every day, and then do not even a quarter of what I said I was gonna do. So I'm still way too optimistic about how much time and energy I have in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me is a big reason for the distance between what I want and what I actually do.
Yeah.
Strangely enough, it never adjusts. Like I always try to do more than I actually can. And in a way, it's also good. Like you plan a lot of things.
Yeah. Do you end up doing more than you would do otherwise?
Well, I guess because you dropped. I hope you dropped the things that are least important to you, and so you just have a better selection of things you do. Although, checking out Facebook is definitely not the most important thing.
Yeah.
But I guess definitely part of it is just sort of almost an addiction, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is a genuine need for relaxation, this distraction.
Yeah. Well, if we would really need relaxation, then we would all be very tempted to sit down and meditate all the time. And, because that would actually be doing nothing actually relaxing.
Yeah.
To just sit down and stare bluntly in front of you. That's the ultimate form of relaxation.
Yeah.
Or just go for a nap. But instead, what I see myself and people around me often doing is going to Facebook and these kind of media to actually actively look for distraction.
Yeah.
Which to me doesn't feel or look like relaxation, even though we sell it this way in the economy. It's you go to a movie. Yeah, I want to relax.
Yeah, and it depends on the service. Movies. Not all movies, but I guess most movies for entertainment. But like Facebook, for example, is not necessarily aimed at entertaining you. I think it's more framing itself as being very social and interacting with people you know.
Yeah, but still often I think the reason I am on Facebook is not because I'm interested in informing myself in an efficient way about my friends and family, but I just scroll around and I look at dog pictures and cat photos.
Yes. But it's a very easy way to be very passive and still get some stimulation. Basically.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I would like to frame this stimulation in terms of distraction. I would say that's fundamentally catching more what it is that you're finding in there. It's being distracted.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I even find myself sometimes really wanting to be distracted.
Yeah.
If I'm like in a bad situation or I'm like I don't feel good.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just grab my phone and just start browsing.
Yeah, exactly.
Reddit or Twitter or whatever.
And these media are optimized for that.
Yeah. And then you can really just stare at your phone and be sort of feel like you're doing something for half an hour, and all the other shit doesn't really exist for a bit.
Yeah, you have some noise to put on top of all the things that you are feeling bad about or don't want to think about right at that instance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think maybe this has a function. If I think back about our first topic that we talked about, we talked about if discomfort is something we should put into our lives because we get stronger from it, and we mentioned that there's some limit to this. Too much discomfort is not going to help you.
Yeah.
Maybe the function of distraction is in this, that you cannot just face all the shit in your life at any one moment.
Yeah.
And we cannot turn thoughts on or off. We all know the moments where we want to go to sleep and thoughts won't stop coming.
Yeah.
So we're definitely not in charge of firing the thoughts up. But we do have this ability to consciously look for distraction and to put some noise on top and not hear the thoughts in some way.
Yeah. Yeah. And in some ways of distracting yourself are probably better than others.
Yeah. Yeah, I know from my own experience that in my working life, sometimes I feel drawn to working more when I feel bad. I think work can be a distraction.
Right.
And is to many people a distraction.
Yeah, I guess.
And, But in these terms, it seems very extreme to me that we feel the need to distract ourselves for most of the time that we are awake.
If work is your distraction, then you're distracted a lot, a large part of your life.
Yeah.
But I hope that it is not the case for everyone, or I don't know if it's good or bad, but
So how about for yourself? How often do you feel this need for being distracted?
In general or at work?
No, in general.
Not so much. Mostly when I'm in boring situations, like when I'm in the elevator or waiting for the bus or something. That's like a situation I don't enjoy. So then I like to just grab my phone.
Yeah.
Although I do confess that I spend like half an hour to an hour like every night before I go to sleep, just reading bullshit.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that's for distraction or maybe it's more of a fear of missing out or something. I wouldn't call it distraction.
But fear of missing out, so it is actually containing some kind of information what you're reading. Or?
Yeah.
Can I ask what, like, is it Reddit that you're looking at or something? Or?
Yeah, Reddit, Twitter. Lately I've also found Hacker News. It's very good. It's from Y Combinator. It's like a startup incubator from San Francisco. And they have like a page where people, like it's sort of a Reddit. It just looks shittier. Yeah. But the content is really good, and also the comments are like.
Yeah, it's called news, so I assume there's some kind of latest developments in hacker world.
Yeah, it's not really about hacker. I mean,
okay.
I mean, it's very technology oriented.
Yeah.
But it's also like lots of other stuff. It's very like rational stuff. But it's quite broad. So also about economy, politics, business. But like the things, these are all like people from the Y Combinator startup program. And like a lot of them are like very smart people, and they're also like, I mean, the people on Hacker News at least are very polite. So the comments are like excellent, like really good. So it really adds a lot of value. Yeah. And it's news, but also just things that people found, like sort of more in a Reddit sense. Yeah. I can spend a lot of time there. Yeah.
I think it's interesting, like thinking about like it's entertaining to you to read this, and I heard you talking about a situation being boring.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in these concepts. Like, why is it that if we're passive in some situation, there's nothing that we can do? We call it boring.
Yeah.
Like, why is it that we are uncomfortable with stagnation, with not doing something? And entertainment, I am really prone myself to view this in the light of distraction. Like, I would rephrase entertainment in most cases to distraction for myself.
Okay.
And being bored as having an urge for distraction.
Yeah.
In some way. So, for doing something.
Yeah.
Instead of standing around and being subject to whatever thought or emotion comes up. And I don't know if I'm biased in thinking about this. It's just something that's been on my mind lately. Yeah. And I do wonder, because these are the kind of things that keep us from optimizing our life, if you will, that we are looking for hours at these entertainment.
I mean, we have to make the separation here, I think, between it's looking at your phone for an hour, like when you should probably go to bed, or looking at your phone while you're waiting for the bus. So in that sense, I mean, could be good to read some interesting stuff, but also could be good to just sit there for 15 minutes and just relax a little bit.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's different than from reading when you're supposed to do something.
Yeah.
I would call that distraction. And the other thing is sort of escaping from boredom.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not exactly the same.
Yeah, the one is eating into the time that you could have used otherwise.
Yes.
And maybe would have wanted to use otherwise. And the other one is just not sitting around passively.
Yeah.
When there's not really a lot of choice.
Yeah.
It's interesting with being bored. Like, why is it that we are so uncomfortable with not doing something? Or like, what are we afraid of for getting uncomfortable with if there is nothing?
I mean, you could tie this back into the evolution discussion we had earlier, of course. That like we only feel good when we're constantly changing things.
Yeah.
Basically, if you're just in a position where everything is good, you have all your food and whatever, then at some point your happiness drops. And you need to start changing around. So I mean, it's good to have something to do with it.
Yeah, this nagging feeling that there's something.
Yeah.
In movies we have this, of course, where in movies, if everything goes well for too long, then we start getting uncomfortable because we know something is about to happen.
Yeah.
Like it cannot be all roses and sunshine all the time.
I just get bored if that happens.
Yeah. Okay.
I guess that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, maybe. But I think it's an interesting link. Maybe that's what boredom is more than something else.
Yeah,
like,
perhaps.
You need to be prepared for whatever happens next.
Yeah. But there's definitely a limit, like a limit to its usefulness. Like if you're just constantly watching like movies on a big screen with loud sound or something, then the world around you can seem boring. Mm-hmm. And in that case, it's definitely not a good thing, I would say.
Can you expand on that? Like, do you mean if we are looking at a lot of entertainment all the time, our notion of what it is to be active changes to the point that the normal world outside of the screen is boring? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like your senses have become numbed, basically.
I'm not sure if I recognize this situation for myself, where I find like a digital world more interesting than the physical world.
Well, I mean, I used to play a lot of video games, and there I definitely had this. And I think it's like sort of common where people spend like many hours, like kids, they play. Like
there's a lot of kids with gaming addictions around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then basically boredom stops being useful.
Yeah.
Because your standards are so off.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. I think that's a very valid point. If I think about myself when I was a kid and my parents wanted to go for a walk in the forest, I would scream that I didn't want to go because it was too boring.
Exactly.
Because it doesn't do anything, and my video games were moving around and giving me bleeps, and it was way more exciting than the tree standing around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I can see that. Yeah. Yeah. But then, okay, so this is a little sidetrack about boredom.
Yeah. Let's get back.
Yeah, but how about the other side of distraction, where we could have used the time that we are scrolling around on Reddit or watching a movie to actually go to the gym or prepare for our work, for some presentation that might give us a promotion. If we are uncomfortable with stagnation, which I think is clear we are as humans, and we want to have that promotion and we want to get stronger than yesterday and we want to be better than the person we were yesterday, then it makes sense that we are spending this time in the way that we think is most efficient to get there for us. Yeah. And often we have the idea, like, if I do go to the gym, if I do read this book, I get better. Yeah. We already know this, and still we don't do it for some reason. Yeah. Still we choose to distract ourselves with something that doesn't serve us to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, this is, it's very hard, and I haven't solved it yet.
Yeah. I think there's not enough books on this topic. Yeah. I sure have been looking for them.
Could write some.
Yeah, definitely. All right. I think it's interesting that we did find some links between the topics.
Yes.
In the end. And I think this was a very interesting discussion.
I hope so.
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
Entertaining for me, at least.
Yeah, I enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too.
All right, thank you, Jim. And thank you, everybody, for listening to this podcast.